Well, good afternoon to you. 406 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news today. Coming up, Congressman Mike Waltz is going to join us at the top of the hour. Joe Biden, Vladimir Zelensky are meeting right now at the White House. Zelensky met with Congress earlier. We'll find out what Congressman Waltz heard today and what the conversation is like with regards to whether or not we're going to be doing more blank check funding for Ukraine. Or are we going to get control of some of this? And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Headline today in the Washington Examiner by the great Heather Hunter. Conservative legal group reveals disturbing impacts of gender transition drugs and treatments on children in Utah. The legal group in question, America First Legal, and the gender clinic in question is the University of Utah Health's Gender Management and Support Clinic. For more on this, let's bring in Ian Pryor. He's a senior advisor to America First Legal, and he joins us now. Ian, good to talk to you as always, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so give me a sense of the project that you undertook at America First Legal. You started to dig into some of these, kind of radical gender ideology hospitals across the country. What did you find?
Yeah, that's right. In June, we sent several FOIAs to, various clinics across the country that were affiliated with, publicly funded institutions. And in Utah, we get a response back that, really showed, it's pages and pages and pages of the consent forms. So the consent forms that, people have to sign, parents have to sign off on, that show the risks of quote unquote gender affirming care. And, it's important because all we ever hear from people is that, look, these are fully reversible. This is not dangerous. This is totally fine to do. But then you find out that these organizations know exactly what is at stake, and they know that there are risks that they know about, and there are risks that they don't know about. Despite that, they're still willing to perform these kind of medical procedures and give these kind of drugs to children.
They act like puberty is an affliction. This is one of the things that these gender people do. And they say that I can't go through the wrong puberty. I can't allow the child to go through the, quote, wrong puberty. That is the biological puberty they're destined to go through. You can't do that. So they say, we're going to put you on puberty blockers. And if you change your mind at a later date, it's reversible. So don't worry. What did you find out, Ian?
Well, they went through a couple of things. They went through the cross-sex hormones, right? So that's where you give somebody estrogen, for example. And then they went through the puberty blockers. And with puberty blockers, they said, look, we don't know what this is going to have to do with brain development later on, but, we're still willing to give it to you if the parent signs off. With testosterone, it's much worse, right? They talk about the risk of heart attacks, stroke, pulmonary embolisms, right? This is stuff that parents are signing off for their children. So one, you have to ask the question, what parent signs off on that for their child? Second question you have to ask is, what about the Hippocratic Oath? But do no harm. You have these doctors literally experimenting on children under the guise of, gender affirming care, gender is a construct, so we're going to administer these drugs to these kids because their parents say it's okay. It is absolutely absurd.
It is big time. And especially, obviously one of the next steps here is to probably establish whether or not these hospitals, and specifically this one at the University of Utah, is misrepresenting this in any of its advertising, because I think that would be a grave a violation of certainly truth in advertising and of the rights of these parents and these children to mislead them about some of the irreversible consequences they're about to encounter.
Yeah, and if you think about what they're doing, right? So you have a child that comes in with a parent and says, we want these treatments. I feel that I'm a girl, or I feel that I'm a boy, so I need these treatments. All right, well, that's like saying, look, I feel like I need a knee replacement. Now, your knee is perfectly healthy, right? But you're not going to be able to go into an orthopedic surgeon and say, I need a knee replacement, and they're going to sign off on that. They're going to be like, no, you don't. Your knee's perfectly fine. Or, maybe you should get some physical therapy first. What they do is they'll send you to a psychiatrist or a therapist, a gender-affirming care therapist. Well, what do you think they're going to do, right? They're not going to sit there and say, well, look, there's some comorbidities here that you need to consider. But they're going to say, okay, well, yep, we'll sign off and we'll send you over to the University of Utah clinic, and you're on your way, and good to go. And then 10 years later, 15 years later, that child is now an adult that is suffering, that has made decisions that they really shouldn't be making, that their parents signed off on, and that their doctors performed. I mean, we're going to look back in generations and say, what did we do?
For sure. And it goes right back to the point that you just made a moment ago about the Hippocratic Oath. What other area of medicine, if you can even call this that, involves stripping someone of healthy bodily functions, diminishing their ability to have a healthy body? I realize that in some cases like cancer, right, there are trade-offs. There are aggressive forms of treatment that involve negative outcomes, but you're trying to arrest something even worse, right? Here, you're taking a healthy body and you're destroying it irreversibly. There's no meaningful upside to this.
There isn't. And I think, every day you get past 40 and things start to break down a little bit. My back is just killing me. And I've gone to the doctor so many times, like, well, you can't do this. You got to be this certain age for this. So you need to go to a chiropractor. You need to do this. It's like, my God, do you understand how bad my back is killing me? I have to go through all these hoops, right? But if you're a child and you want testosterone, you want puberty blockers, you have to go through minimal hoops, if any at all, other than getting a parent to sign off.
So is it your view, it must be, because, I mean, we've encountered this story a lot in a bunch of different places, that this is endemic, this is all over the place in the United States?
It is, and I mean, if you look at the numbers, it is clearly a social contagion. I mean, you'll have towns in, Ohio, where you've got all these kids, they're saying, well, I identify as a different sex. And you go like 5 towns over and you don't have that problem. Or you have a family that'll go out there and, they'll talk on social media about their 3 transgender kids. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Really?
Right.
That seems very strange. And if you look at what Europe is doing, right? Europe is pulling back on this. Europe is saying, wait a minute, we need to slow down here. This is a problem. We need to slow this down and not immediately jump to conclusions. Meanwhile, here you have the Biden administration saying, no, we need to support this. I mean, I think that says it all.
Do any of these gender clinics in any of their public literature, the things that they post to the internet and they share publicly as they try and draw people into these clinics, are they upfront about the negative consequences of all of this?
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. I think that the Daily Wire really did a good job exposing Vanderbilt University a couple of months back, and it's all fluff. It's all rainbows and unicorns, right? When they're talking about this, it's gender-affirming care, which of course is a misnomer. I mean, that's not what it is. It's experimentation. But beyond that, I mean, this is big money, right? This is something that's going to be if not already, is going to be a $10 billion industry in a very short time. And, the Daily Wire had a doctor saying, look, this is a lot of money.
Right.
So what is driving this, right? It is money. Money is driving this, as well as this political ideology. And God forbid you ever question it, because if you do, they will come after you and they will try and destroy you. If you have any kind of, hey, maybe we should slow down, then you are branded a transphobe, and they want to ostracize you from society.
Yeah. But the key here is to expose them. So this is step one. I'm glad America First Legal is doing this, sharing these documents about what really happens when they inject these children full of these chemicals. What about the funding here? Are you undertaking any effort to try and get to the bottom of funding sources and how much money is involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this is one of our commitments at AFL, whether it's through litigation at the school level or whether it's through investigation. And, we have several Freedom of Information Act requests out there now, both federally and at the state level, to really kind of figure out, where is this coming from? Now, remember, these are not FDA approved for the purposes that they're being used. Sure, you have, say, precocious puberty, where puberty blockers are FDA approved. But what is the FDA saying? What is the federal government saying? What are these states saying? And how is it being funded? These are the kind of things that as we go through this process, we're going to keep digging into.
Yes. And by the way, like those the precocious puberty use of some of these drugs doesn't extend out into infinity. That's not the point. It's to slow a kid down by like a year, not permanently disable them, which is the effect of so much of this radical gender ideology we see. Another piece here is that at the federal level, the Biden administration has fully endorsed all of this to the point that they want to criminalize dissent on the subject. They have been saying that any therapist who advises a child that they weren't born in the wrong body may be running afoul of their rules around what is this? Oh, conversion therapy. It's like conversion. It's illegal conversion therapy to try and convince a child that their body isn't a mistake.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem, right? We're getting these messages from the Biden administration that are striking fear in doctors, in responsible doctors who are going to say, well, look, the same thing that Europe's doing, right? We're not going to go right to that. We're going to actually, hey, do you have any kind of other issues that we can talk about? Look, kids go through a lot when they're going through puberty, when they're in their adolescent years.
Yeah.
And to immediately jump to, we need to physically change you such that when you're older, you will not only be physically changed, you will be mentally changed for the worst.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And so you have obviously a lot of states that are saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. Unfortunately, in the court cases where these states have legislated that, they've been successful. So, I call it the school to scalpel pipeline, because you have a lot of this going on in schools where they say, well, we're not going to tell your parents. We're going to affirm your gender. And this is where it leads, right? If you don't stop this in the beginning, then you are going to get to the point where next thing you know, your child is essentially going to be emotionally blackmailing you to go to these clinics and get puberty blockers, to get on cross-sex hormones, and possibly even surgery.
Yeah, they're destroying children everywhere with this. It needs to be confronted and rooted out big time, because these kids deserve a lot better. Ian Prior, thank you very much for digging into this and for all the great work that you do at America First Legal. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
That's Ian Prior, and it is just amazing. Referring back to this Washington Examiner report again today on what Ian was able to dig up in America First Legal, they talk about that this University of Utah gender clinic, they have something called feminizing therapy that they do on young boys, and it can cause some permanent and irreversible changes, including chest growth. The documents show that the risks involved in feminizing therapy, or there's a long list of health complications, including high blood pressure, blood clots, heart disease, diabetes, liver and kidney disease, non-cancerous tumors of the pituitary gland, gallstones, breast cancer, headaches, migraines, loss of fertility, that is, you're not able to have babies or get someone pregnant. They admit that some gender-affirming puberty blockers include the use of androgen blockers and GnRH agonists are not FDA approved and could lead to muscle weakness, nerve problems, and dangerous heart arrhythmias. And it goes on and on and on, all the dangerous side effects of this. Let me take a phone call here. Scott's calling in from Chantilly, line 1. Scott, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Callahan Show.
Hi, Vince. Thank you. Why do they have to have the pedal to the metal and go so fast on this? If you are obese and need gastric bypass, you have to go through counseling, you have to go through planning, you have to go through medical evaluation to make sure you're suitable for this. Why do they want these therapies, whatever they're calling it? Why so fast? I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly right. It kind of gives away the game, doesn't it? It's not even really motivated by any scientific principle. It's a cultish political agenda. Because if it was motivated by science and health, it'd be deliberative, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It just, where are we going? I don't get it, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. It's a good point. It reminds me of my friend and old colleague, Greg Ree, who was a producer for Tucker Carlson Tonight. He posed as a transgender identifying patient. And he did a 22-minute phone call with one of these gender clinics, 22 minutes. And at the end of the 22 minutes, he received a letter of support for the removal of his testicles. In 22 minutes, that's how long it took for him to achieve that by just posing as someone who was interested in getting treatment. So, yeah, that doesn't sound like a deliberative process, does it? It's cruel. It's totally sick. It's 4:21 now. You got to confront this radical gender ideology stuff, don't you? It just has to be done. There's a lot of lives on the line, aren't there? A lot of lives that can be destroyed by these people. It's just pretty grotesque stuff. And you should do it at maximum volume, because they're trying to barrel forward with this. You've seen the youngest generation, right? What did the surveys show? 1 out of every 5 identifies as LGBTQ. Now, That doesn't really mean a tremendous amount because all of those letters mean something different. But most of it is young girls who identify as bisexual, which is a very trendy identification because it doesn't involve any real proof. You're like, oh, I'm bi. Okay, whatever. But there are a ton of these kids who are very confused about what their gender is. Who's confused about their gender? Nobody. Come on. It wasn't like that before. It is now because the left is doing this, and it's leading to the destruction of people's lives. And it's just really gross stuff. So we try and call it out and bring on all the great patriots who are standing up for decency and exposing it like Ian Pryor is. So God bless him for doing that. I'm so thankful he joined us today. Let me get Paula in Gaithersburg in here. Line 2. Paula, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Callahan Show.
Hey, very apt word in the word exposing, because really what needs to be exposed is the fact that children need to be told that if you ever want to have a healthy sex life, do not mutilate your organs and do not take hormone blockers and any of these other kinds of things. I mean, they're going to be zombies.
That's true, but let me just pause on this thought for a moment, though, Paula. I don't even think children really understand what they are going to miss. In other words, it's an adult's responsibility to say, no, you're not doing that. That's insane. You will destroy yourself in ways that you can't even foresee. You are not old enough to even detect the ways that this is going to harm you. I agree with you. That is the long-lasting ramification, but these are kids we're talking about.
Exactly. It's unfortunate because the parents that are pushing this are deceived and they want another agenda that is, I believe, part and parcel in 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy agenda.
Right.
And these people are using every single thing at their disposal to try to destroy what's good and decent.
The parents are being suckered into abandoning their kids. And that's why one of the things that I get angry at Republicans about, some Republican leaders in various states, is they'll say stuff like, oh, yeah, we can trans the kids if the parents are involved. No, stupid. That is abusive. That is destroying that kid's future. And the parents should be defending that child at all costs from this. It's 429. Well, good afternoon to you. 4:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up at the top of the hour, Congressman Mike Waltz is here. He's from Florida, and he's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. He'll talk about Vladimir Zelensky's visit to Washington today, meeting with Capitol Hill members of Congress earlier. And we will chat with the congressman about how much money the Congress is prepared to hand over yet again to the war there, and to what end, right? So, are we going to get control of that money? I should remind you that Zelensky has just sought and secured the resignations of a bunch of defense officials in his country over corruption charges. I guess one of the schemes that was involved were they were taking all this American money and then turning around and then paying for supplies from local providers and then paying a massive markup, which is just a way to just give away money. And that's crazy. So we need more answers on that, I would think. Like, before you cut another $50 billion check to Ukraine, maybe clear up the corruption thing. Where's all this money going? What is it going towards? And get some more answers there. So, again, Congressman Mike Waltz is ahead. We'll find out what he learned today. Meanwhile, there's a story going around right now that deserves some attention. The comedian Russell Brand, have you been following this saga? Russell Brand has been accused of sexual assault by a number of women in a couple publications, but predominantly based out of the UK, earlier in his career. So if you've been following Russell Brand in any capacity over the years, you know that he was very, as I saw one commentator identify him today, very libertine in his early years. He wasn't shy about his sexual escapades, but he was always operating under the, public assumption that this was all just consensual relationships. But, if you engage in all sorts of sexual activities with a bunch of people, including, I guess, a bunch of people you don't really know very well, that will probably come back to haunt you, especially if you have a high-profile career. And that's what's happening right now to Russell Brand. But I mentioned at the time, as this story was breaking over this past week, that it's not a mistake that it's happening now, because Russell Brand has created a pretty popular online show. He does it in places like YouTube and Rumble. And on his show, he questions the powers that be. He's questioning the war in Ukraine, what's happening there. He was questioning COVID protocols. He was questioning the vaccine, if you can even call it that. He has all sorts of questions about these things. And he would air out excellent interviews and conversations. He had some zany ideas. He's got politics that I don't agree with. Fine. But all of a sudden, right now, when he's at his most effective, going after all of these institutions, these allegations all pop up right now. Now, it doesn't mean that the allegations are false. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the allegations are false. They may very well be true. And as I stipulated immediately, if they are, shame on him. And he should, have to suffer the consequences of whatever the legal system is that he would be subjected to. But that's not why this story is becoming public right now. Whatever happened between him and any particular woman is between them and should be handled in a criminal justice system. But it doesn't take much. If you're a major pharmaceutical company, you can forget that budgetary item to try and destroy Russell Brand's life. Hire an opposition research firm, dig into every crevice of his life, try and figure out a way to take him down, put a packet of information together, and send it off to the press. Gift wrap it. The press has the same agenda. They want to stand up for the elite left. They want to stand up for the elitists who are running society. It's how they purchase access to them in the first place. It's how they get to attend their parties and on and on. And so that's how a hit like this transpires. And so what happened to Russell Brand this week? Well, YouTube announced on Tuesday, Google owned YouTube, that Russell Brand will no longer be allowed to make money from their website because several women made allegations of sexual assault against the comedian turned influencer. This is the Associated Press report. The BBC removed some of Brand's material from its streaming archive, joining a growing list of organizations distancing themselves from the performer, who denies sexual assault and has not been charged with any criminal offenses. Let me repeat that. He has not been charged with anything. Anything. But the BBC has removed Brand from their streaming archive, and YouTube has disabled his ability to generate money from advertisements. So if you watch a YouTube video and an ad rolls, or if you pay for their premium service and you watch a video, you get the creator of that content earns a small cut of the revenue from the ad. That's how it works. That's how it works. And so they've disabled his ability to make a living sharing his opinions and conversations and interviews. That's done. And the basis for it is, quote, serious allegations against the creator. That's what YouTube says. Russell Brand has 6.6 million subscribers. In other words, not a small amount of revenue coming into him from that. Serious allegations against the creator. No charges whatsoever. No conviction whatsoever. The standard that YouTube is employing is guilty until proven innocent. And in fact, I don't even really think they're saying until proven innocent. They're just saying guilty, don't come back. That's the position they've taken. No word from YouTube whether or not they would ever reverse this or under any circumstance. And the British government is now pressuring multiple social media companies, multiple internet companies to banish Russell Brand. There's an actual government-backed cancel exercise underway. A guy who has not been charged. There have been accusations against him, but the Western standard, including once in places like Britain, has always been innocent until proven guilty. Not so. Destroy Russell Brand. He's an enemy of the regime. Enemy of the regime. Now, let me pause on this for a moment. Jeffrey Epstein was very close to many people in power. Many people who still wield immense influence in our world, don't they? You have Bill Gates, who dined with this guy, hung out with him, traveled with him. Melinda Gates said she was horrified by it. She hated the relationship. It was one of the reasons they divorced. Has Bill Gates been banished from polite society? Has Bill Gates been banished from being an influencer at the elite levels of our society? No. No, he's not. There's no consequences at all. There's a couple questions to him every so often. He gets annoyed he's being asked. He'll say something like, well, he's dead, so it doesn't matter anymore. It's like a very Hillary Clinton answer. And let's just move on. So no consequences like that for him. But Russell Brand, destroy him. Because Russell Brand is against people like Bill Gates. So he has to be canceled. In a bit of encouraging news, the video streaming service Rumble, which is a competitor to YouTube, albeit much smaller, but it is a part of that alternative economy that actually defends free speech. Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovski this week responded to a letter from a committee chair in the United Kingdom Parliament who had asked if Russell Brand would be able to continue making money on the platform. Quote, while Rumble obviously deplores sexual assault, rape, and all serious crimes, and believes that both alleged victims and the accused are entitled to a full and serious investigation, it is vital to note that recent allegations against Russell Brand have nothing to do with content on Rumble's platform. That's exactly right. What does the content have to do with it? What does the content have to do with it? Are we going to remove videos of Michael Jackson dancing on stage from YouTube? Is that going to happen? Because of allegations made about him? No is the answer, and I'm sure there's still people collecting revenue for every Michael Jackson video that's on that streaming service. Russell Brand? No. Pavlovski's words come in response to a letter from Caroline Dinenage. She's the UK's chair of Culture, Media, and Sports Committee. The letter says, quote, while we recognize that Rumble is not the creator of the content published by Mr. Brand, we are concerned that he may be able to profit from his content on the platform. A man, okay, again, who you should presume innocent until proven guilty. They're concerned he may be able to profit. What if he was proven guilty for any crime? What if he was? It would obviously be up to Rumble, but why should the government get involved in trying to force them to get rid of this guy? Isn't Hinckley, the guy who shot Reagan, still making music videos? Isn't that his thing now? He makes music videos? My guess is he's probably generating revenue on YouTube. Is Hinckley making money on YouTube? Wouldn't take much research to get to the bottom of this. We recognize Rumble is not the creator of the content. We are concerned he may be able to profit from his content on the platform. We would be grateful if you can confirm whether Mr. Brand is able to monetize his content, including his videos relating to the serious accusations against him. If so, we would like to know whether Rumble intends to join YouTube in suspending Mr. Brand's ability to earn money on the platform. Pavlovski responded to this and, of course, said, no, we're not doing that. Quote, we regard it as deeply inappropriate and dangerous that the UK Parliament would attempt to control who is allowed to speak on our platform or to earn a living from doing so. Singling out an individual and demanding his ban is even more disturbing, given the absence of any connection between the allegations and his content on Rumble. We don't agree with the behavior of many Rumble creators, but we refuse to penalize them for actions that have nothing to do with our platform. But it's not over. The attacks on Rumble in particular, and this story is making me like Rumble so much more. I don't use Rumble enough. I need to start using this platform more. Pavlovski tweeting today, or Xing, however you describe it. If you thought the attacks were going to stop, you're wrong. Imagine scouring for a few comments out of millions so they can report on it. The corporate media is disgusting, evil, and misleading. This is what happens when they're scared bleepless of the values we stand for. Bring it. And he posted an image of a reporter from the Associated Press reaching out to him. It looks like in the last 24 hours. A reporter by the name of Ali Swenson. Writing to the Rumble press team and expressing concern about the platform having bigoted comments written underneath videos. Bigoted comments, racial slurs. comments under Trump's campaign videos, call for violence. So what's happening here is they say the Associated Press reviewed the platform, and they noted that others have criticized Rumble for allowing and even actively promoting harmful conspiracy theories, disinformation, violent ideas, extremist views. What is Rumble's response to these findings and the criticism that it allows and promotes this harmful content? Again, it would be great to hear back before the end of the day tomorrow if possible. Happy to email or set up a time to talk by phone. Thanks very much. It's a hit piece. It's designed to diminish Rumble. How does Rumble make us money? Well, advertisements, right? I mean, this is you run ads. What are they trying to do? They want to scare advertisers away. These are pressure campaigns. And this one's being waged by the Associated Press against Rumble. So it's amazing. You know, it's like it's totally typical, and it's a crazy news cycle we're seeing right now, but it's illustrative of the way these things work. So again, regardless of the merits of the Russell Brand allegation, they're trying to destroy his message and the places where he's allowed to express it without any conviction or even charges of any kind. And we just saw the same thing happen with Barstool's Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy, you're familiar with him. He's the guy who runs Barstool Sports, a wildly popular sports website. He now owns the company again. He through an amazing deal, got the company back for, what did he pay for it? $1 to get it back, and he made like something like $200 million when he sold it in the first place. So I don't even know how you teach me. how do you do a deal like that? But he gets this company back, and they're throwing, one of his things is he does these pizza reviews on the web where he'll go to like a random pizza place anywhere in America, and he'll do a review of the pizza. He'll buy a pizza. Usually, I think it's a cheese pizza every time. He brings the cheese pizza outside. He does this whole shtick. It's one bite. Everybody knows the rules. And then he just keeps eating the pizza. The joke is that it's not actually one bite. He just keeps going. And then he gives it a score. And it's become really popular. And so to the point that he's decided to kind of make this a thing. He's throwing a big pizza party, in quotes, with a ton of pizza makers. Like all these pizza shops are going to show up because they're so grateful that he's been promoting their industry. They're all going to be there. It's going to be a big, like almost like a big barbecue event, but it's going to be a big pizza event. That's what he's doing. And there are sponsors for this event. As you organize an event, you get sponsors. This week, the Washington Post is trying to scare the sponsors away from their participation in a pizza party because they don't like Dave Portnoy. And they dress it up as some sort of act of, it's just sincere journalism. We were just asking them if they knew that you sucked. CNN does this too. They'll call, Fox's advertisers. Did you know that Fox is awful? Are you going to keep advertising on this place that's awful? It's a pressure campaign. It's not real journalism. It's activism disguised as journalism. They'll send an email, they'll make a call, and they'll say, are you going to keep advertising on this place? And they're pretending like, we're just looking for the information. Then we're going to tell our audience that, that company, Yeti Coolers, is going to keep advertising there. And that's not actually what it's about. It's about scaring the hell out of Yeti. So they close their checkbook and disassociate with the political opponents of places like CNN and the Washington Post or the Associated Press. It's a scam. They use journalism. They misappropriate journalism in order to commit an act of activism. A boycott. They're leading a boycott with their newsroom. I've got some audio, actually, from Portnoy, and he called the Washington Post's bluff on this because they started asking around to these advertisers. So Portnoy got caught wind of this, and he contacted the Washington Post reporter in question. And boy, they had a very interesting conversation. It's 4:52 now. Yeah, Barstool's Dave Portnoy caught wind of the fact that the Washington Post was trying to lead a boycott of his pizza party, so he called the reporter who was doing it.
This is Emily.
Hey, Emily, this is Dave Portnoy calling. I'm recording you right now, but I've noticed a bunch of people. It seems like we have this Pizza Fest happening on Saturday, and you're reaching out to our advertisers, and you're basically sending an email that says, to the effect, Dave's a misogynist, racist. Do you want to defend yourselves advertising at this event, right?
I'm sorry, what's your name, Dave? I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm the guy you're writing the article about, Dave Portnoy.
Oh, you're Dave Portnoy. Oh, hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. No, I'm not. I haven't said anything like that.
I can read if you want. If you want, I can read what you actually sent. I have it.
Yeah, read, because I sent a bunch of notes, so I want to make sure I know which one.
Oh my God.
Okay. We are planning to write about the festival and how some of the sponsors and participants have drawn criticism by seemingly to associate themselves with Dave Portnoy, who has a history of misogynist comments and other problematic behavior. I want to make sure that blank had a chance to respond to this, since the company is the most prominent of their partners of his festival.
Oh, that's the one I sent to, which was definitely the most pointed of them, because I really did want them to respond, and I was hoping to get something from them.
Oh, so she said, I didn't say that, but he has the evidence that she actually did. Oh, that's interesting. So then what?
It kind of backs people into a corner. So I'm happy to go over anything. I mean, that is pretty pointed. You said you didn't do it. Then I have the exact evidence of you doing it. So
No, I didn't say I didn't do that. I said I did. That was the one that was the most pointed.
Well, no, before I provided proof, you said you didn't really remember doing that, and then I read it to you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I did it that one time." So you did do it. I'm happy to talk about the comments, because to me, it's kind of like torturous interference. Like, we're doing an event, everyone's happy about the event. I've raised $50 million for small business. I've helped pizza. None of that. It's Dave's misogynic and problematic, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, he put it right in her face, and he's right about this. Now, she tried to, sweet talk her way out of this. Oh, can we talk tomorrow? And he's like, how about 10 o'clock in the morning? He's like, yeah, fine, 10, let's do it. Tomorrow morning, I'll talk to you. The Washington Post backed out of that meeting this morning. They have to, figure out their next line of attack. Coming up, Congressman Mike Waltz joins us. We're going to talk about Ukraine funding with him. Zelensky wants a lot more. Should we give it to them?